It's time for the Daily Stand-Up Podcast presented by AgileDad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. Hey everybody, how's it going? It is an exciting day. It's a beautiful morning. Everything is going my way. I'm sure you know the Disney pun. But I had a student in one of my classes just this morning. We were having a chat and we are talking about the whole concept of being on call. And what's interesting is that, if you've listened to the AgileDad podcast before, if you've gone and looked at the documents, you'll see that we often talk about Team John and how to handle interruptions and how the fact is that we're going to have interruptions. The fact is that things are going to happen. But the question becomes, when does the concept of having someone on call or a duty phone turn into a DooDoo phone? When people are just calling for the sake of calling, or calling to ask about their horoscope, or even worse, calling on a weekend when they know it's not something that you handle, and just saying, I just thought you should be aware of this, or I know you're not responsible, but we just want to make sure that you know. And what I can tell you is it's crap. And it does turn into a doo-doo phone. So the question becomes, how do you know when Team John is the appropriate call? And how do you know when it's better just to hold off and let someone know as soon as possible? And this kind of wrangles and brings back the concept of how do we handle those inbound interruptions, and what are they, and when is it appropriate to escalate, and how do we escalate? And I think what it all boils down to is one simple concept. It's the concept of a team working agreement and how teams work together. And it's a concept of figuring out when to apply certain principles and when not to. So I was working with Mike Cohn one time, and we were co-teaching, or co-coaching, I guess I should say, together at a Scrum gathering. And we had a young lady, and she was telling us about this Scrum Master within her company. And we're going to call the Scrum Master Stacy because I don't remember her name. And what she was telling me is that Stacy was one of the best Scrum Masters because Stacy would always be able to tell people where to go if they had a problem. So everyone in the company would go to Stacy and say, hey, I'm having this problem. And she'd be like, oh, you need to go talk to John. You need to go talk to Eric. You need to go talk to Mary. But I ended up tracking down Stacy, and I asked her, I said, so what exactly do you do? What do you know? And she goes, well, my forte is sending people to other people and telling them where they need to go. And I'm like, well, that's great, but it's not going to last very long if you don't identify your area of expertise, and if you don't have a team working agreement in place that lays out how things are going to go. So here's the answer. So I've given you the problem. I've laid it all out. The solution is easy. The solution is that we need coordination. And if we have coordination with the people who are on call, and we understand conceptually when is appropriate and how is appropriate and what things we have to call for, then it makes that duty phone useful and practical, and it makes it the tool that it should be. It makes the tool that everyone wants it to be. And I think too often we get handed down rules from leadership, or even worse, we have one organization that maintains, let's just call it a support list. And what ends up happening is no matter how hard you update or try to update and frequently go in and tell people, hey, this is the right thing, this is these are the right people to contact, these are the right things to do. When you have someone who maintains the greater sight or the greater vision, a lot of times what they'll do is make updates that override your updates, and it just ends up creating a big mess. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the root of all this is solid communication. So if you can set up a solid team working agreement and have great communication, you can turn that doo-doo phone back into a duty phone and make it worth its weight in gold. But I think a big part of this is just a common understanding that everyone needs to communicate, and that the world's a better place when we do. We're going to keep it short and sweet today. That's going to do it. If you have a topic you want us to discuss on the Daily Stand-Up Podcast, just send us an email, learn more at agiledad.com. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.